Okay, so welcome everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating, I think. We've got this document, right? It's called The New Future.
Catchy title.
Yeah, right. It's from a guy named Shawn Wondunna-Foley, posted on interway.com/.o. And the date on this thing is March 15th, 2025. So just a little peek into the future, maybe. Anyway, this document, it really kind of lays out a whole new way of thinking about, well, about everything, honestly, like
hmm
where humanity could be headed.
It's definitely a big picture vision, not just tinkering around the edges, but a pretty radical reimagining of, well, of the world as we know it.
Exactly. And one of the core ideas, the thing that kind of underpins everything else in this new future, is the idea of free limitless energy. So that's what we're going to be digging into today, trying to understand what that actually means, how it all works and what the implications are.
Sounds like a plan. Free energy is one of those concepts that's been floating around for ages, so it'll be interesting to see how this document tackles it.
Totally. And speaking of tackling things, one of the first things that jumped out at me in this document was the way it talks about technology and nature, like how those two things could coexist or even, merge in some ways. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we tend to think about technology and nature as being kind of at odds with each other, like more technology equals less nature. But this document, it flips that whole idea on its head.
Yeah, totally. So instead of like concrete jungles and sprawling suburbs, this document talks about these towering, sustainable, floating skyscrapers.
Floating skyscrapers, that's a new
Yeah,
one.
oh, right. But it's a pretty vivid image. And the idea is that these skyscrapers would exist like above these thriving ecosystems. So you'd have forests and waterfalls and even wildlife all integrated into these futuristic cities.
Yeah, it's a pretty radical departure from, well, from how we design cities today. I mean,
Mm.
usually we're trying to squeeze nature into little pockets like parks and green spaces. But this document, it's talking about nature being the foundation and the technology kind of built around it.
Right, like a total reversal.
Yeah.
And the key to making all of this work, according to the document, is clean energy. These floating cities, they'd be powered by these inexhaustible energy sources. So there'd be this soft glow throughout the infrastructure, all powered sustainably.
It's a pretty compelling image, isn't it? A city that's actually giving back to the planet instead of taking from it.
For sure. And it makes you wonder, like, what if we could apply that same thinking to our cities today? Could we create urban environments that are both technologically advanced and ecologically sound?
That's the million-dollar question, right? But this document at least gives us something to aspire to.
Definitely. So moving on from the whole tech and nature thing, the document then goes into this whole vision of a world of unity, hope, and abundance. It's a pretty grand title, but what does it actually mean in practical terms?
Well, the basic idea is that by solving these really fundamental challenges, like energy scarcity and environmental degradation, we could create a world where people are no longer just struggling to survive.
Right. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Once the basic needs are met, people can focus on higher level things like self-actualization and, making the world a better place.
Exactly. And this document, it really emphasizes the idea of diversity and collaboration, like
Mm.
different cultures coming together to solve problems and create something new. And because everyone has what they need, there's less competition and conflict.
So it's not just about material abundance, it's about a more harmonious and equitable society as well.
Absolutely. The document talks about this shift from like a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. So instead of hoarding resources and competing with each other, we're all working together for the common good.
It's a nice thought, isn't it? A world where everyone can thrive and reach their full potential.
It is. And it's interesting to think about what that would actually look like, in
Yeah.
practice. Like how would our systems and institutions need to change to support that kind of world?
Yeah, that's a whole other deep dive, probably.
Maybe one for another time.
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk about transportation because this document has some pretty wild ideas about how we're going to be getting around in the future. What caught your eye?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is that there are no cars, like at all. No
Right.
traffic jams, no exhaust fumes. Instead, we've got these sleek anti-gravity vehicles zipping around silently.
Anti-gravity vehicles. That sounds like something out of like the Jetsons or something.
Right, but that's the level of technological advancement that this document is envisioning. And it's not just about personal vehicles either. They also talk about these hyperloop networks
Yeah.
connecting cities at super high speeds.
So like imagine being able to travel from New York to LA in like an hour or something. That would be insane.
It would completely change how we live and work, wouldn't it?
Hmm.
And then within these floating cities, they talk about these pedestrian sky bridges connecting the different towers.
So it's like a whole interconnected network, both within and between cities, and everything is designed to be sustainable and efficient.
It's a pretty radical shift from our current transportation systems, which are, let's be honest, kind of a mess in a lot of places.
Yeah, no kidding. But I guess that's kind of the point of this document, right? To imagine what's possible if we really rethink everything.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the values that are driving the development of that technology,
Yeah.
like sustainability, efficiency, and interconnectedness.
Right. Okay, so let's get to the heart of the matter. This whole vision of a new reality built on free energy. What exactly do they mean by free energy, and how is it supposed to work?
Well, it's not about like magic or perpetual motion or anything like that. The document seems to be suggesting that there are these like untapped energy sources that we haven't fully figured out how to harness yet.
Okay, so like new forms of renewable energy, maybe?
Maybe. They don't really go into specifics. But the point is that these energy sources would be so abundant and so readily available that it would essentially eliminate the concept of energy scarcity as we know it.
Wow. So like no more oil wars, no more worrying about running out of fossil fuels.
Exactly. And this free energy, it would power everything. The floating cities, the transportation systems, our homes, our businesses. It would be the foundation of this entire new world.
That's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? Like to say that we could completely transform our energy systems and essentially eliminate scarcity.
It is bold. But the document argues that this is not only possible, but it's actually within our reach right now.
Really? So what's stopping us?
Well, according to the document, the main obstacle is, it's kind of conspiracy theory, actually. They say that the technology for free energy already exists, but it's being suppressed by powerful forces who benefit from the current system.
So like big oil companies and governments and stuff like that.
Yeah, presumably. Again, they don't really name names, but the idea is that there's this cabal of powerful interests who are actively preventing this technology from being released to the public.
That's a little out there, isn't it?
It is, but it's a common theme in a lot of these kind of futurist visions, this idea that we're on the verge of a breakthrough, but something is holding us back.
I guess it makes for a good story, at least.
It does. And it also taps into this kind of deep-seated desire for like a technological silver bullet that will solve all our problems.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so putting aside the conspiracy theories for a moment, the document ends with this call to action, the path forward, co-creating a new Earth. What's the message there?
Well, it's basically saying that this new future, it's not going to just happen on its own. We have to actively work towards it.
So, like, even if this free energy technology does exist, it's not enough to just, like, flip a switch and everything changes.
Right. The document emphasizes the importance of individual and collective action, like changing our lifestyles, demanding change from our leaders, and supporting the development of these new technologies.
So it's about a shift in consciousness as much as it is about technological innovation.
Exactly. The document talks about this idea of co-creation, like we're all in this together and we need to work together to build the future we want.
It's a powerful message for sure, and it kind of leaves you feeling hopeful, even if some of the ideas in this document are a little far-fetched.
Yeah, I agree. It's a reminder that we do have the power to shape our own destiny, even if it doesn't always feel that way.
Totally. So there you have it, folks. We've taken a deep dive into this vision of the new future, a world of floating cities, anti-gravity vehicles, and free energy. It's a pretty wild ride, and even if not all of it comes true, it's definitely food for thought.
It's definitely a vision that pushes the boundaries of what we typically consider possible. It challenges us to think big and to imagine a world where, well, where maybe things aren't so bad after all.
Exactly, and who knows, maybe some of these ideas will actually come to fruition someday. But in the meantime, it's up to us to keep pushing for a better future however we can.
I like that. It's a call to action, not just a prediction.
Totally. And on that note, I'll leave you with this thought. If free, limitless energy really did become a reality tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would want to see change in the world? It's a big question, but it's worth thinking about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
See